You believe in ghosts?
Yes.
No.
Sort of. I don't know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
According to like the Jewish standard of ghosts,
Actually, no.
What's a Jewish standard?
like shades and stuff.
A ghost that goes oi instead
There's
of
different
boo.
types.
Like shaded.
Oh, demons.
Oh, the.
Right, I don't believe in ghosts, but demons. Oh.
No.
Who doesn't believe in ghosts?
I can't play Magic the Gathering.
You had to stop. You had to stop.
What does it mean not to believe in ghosts? You don't think there is such a
You
thing?
don't believe
No.
in. You don't believe people go. Like you don't believe that humans, a part of humans, stays here when they die. That's what you believe. If you don't believe in ghosts, then you believe.
So a ghost means some part of a human being that is lingering.
Yeah, part of who they were. I mean, what else could it be? Not just.
That decides it doesn't want to go to Shemaiah.
You ever watch Scooby-Doo?
A ghost is a look at the science that is stuck for some reason.
Like I'd say, lingering. Like
So it's not a piece of the person itself. It's a piece of like subconscious.
something that they still want to accomplish.
No, not even that. It's just.
Without explaining it, how can you not believe in the existence of ghosts when everyone has been talking about it for all of known history? Cubs?
Because in the modern day and age, the attitude is that we don't believe in supernatural stuff.
That's ridiculous.
Having fun.
We don't believe in supernatural stuff.
People don't believe in things they don't see.
Some people say it's a miracle.
Some people don't believe in things
It's
they don't
nice
see.
bedtime story.
Some people don't believe in things they don't see.
But
So they don't believe in germs, they don't believe in atoms.
they don't believe in God.
They don't believe in God.
Well,
In modern times, more than ever before, we know that what is not seen is more powerful and more true than what we do see.
But if there's no proof,
The germs exist.
What in the world is proof?
proof is.
If somebody says, I really respect you, you say, where's the proof?
The way they act towards you.
Well, respect.
The way they act towards you. That's the proof.
Is that really proof? Or they get fake it?
They could, but
Why do we need
There are lots
proof?
of
Who needs proof?
Well, it's not a black and white situation.
Huh?
Skeptics.
Skeptics.
Like, it depends. It depends.
Method of
So here's what I want to suggest to you. Listen to this. Anything that human beings speak about is real. We cannot ever talk about something that isn't real.
What do you mean?
We don't have that kind of an imagination.
Dragons. And. Oh, wait, those are real?
No, if I may.
Make something up.
Cthulhu.
That's
Huh?
real.
Cthulhu.
That is 100% real.
What?
Yeah, it's in your drawer,
In a
Rabbi.
symbolic way, yes. I'm just kidding.
I still
Say, listen to the principle. Human imagination means the ability to rearrange known facts. You cannot make up something that doesn't exist.
True. Yeah, but you could arrange it. Like a dragon is a bigger lizard.
No, a dragon.
a lizard that breathes ice.
It breathes ice instead of smoke or fire. Or all known things. You cannot make up something that was never experienced. So if people talk about ghosts, the intelligent question to ask is, what is a ghost? Where do they hang around? And everybody has an opinion about what God is and what he looks like and what he does or doesn't do, and there's no such thing.
People like believing in something.
If I may.
They can't, if they don't have something to believe in, then what else do they have?
What about misperception?
If people believe in something, it's either because they experienced it or because they need it. And if they need it, it's real.
Do people need dragons?
No, dragons are not.
There's not many people who worship dragons.
What about perceiving something wrong?
So let me give you a good example. The first explorer ever to go to Australia comes back and says, there's an animal down there. It hops around on its hind legs. and it carries its baby in a pocket.
You run over it.
Nobody
gonna think that
nobody
guy's
knew how to
insane.
describe that. That was
People are gonna think that guy's insane.
So the guy comes back and says, there's that kind of an animal in Australia. And you say, hey, come on, I'm too intelligent to believe such. Are you being intelligent?
No, you're just,
Yeah,
In a
well,
way.
technically, you are. You cannot prove it. I mean, you're wrong, but it's not stupid of you.
There's nothing wrong with
it's not stupid nor intelligent.
What is the intelligent reason to doubt that there is such an animal?
Never experienced it.
I never experienced it. Now you say
Someone
that to
else
an
has.
explorer, you sound like a total idiot.
Yeah.
The explorer says, hey, I'm an explorer. You know what that means? I go to places nobody else goes to, and I see things nobody else sees. So I'm telling you where I went and what I saw. You say, oh, I never saw that.
Except then,
I know you never saw that. You're not the explorer. I am.
except the problem with
like
that is,
international
So 1 second.
space.
If you don't accept anything you haven't already seen, you're never going to learn anything. We would still be living in caves. Intelligence means if you tell me something I never heard before, I just learned something. Now, could you be lying to me? What are you, paranoid? Why would he be lying to you?
the problem with the explorer is that
The problem is, people lie to you. They told you there's a Santa Claus, and that's not his name.
it's just true.
They told you there's a tooth fairy, there's no tooth fairy.
I don't care as long as I get one.
And you felt really embarrassed that you fell for it. So now you make up your mind, from now on, I don't believe anybody, anything. That's not intelligent, that's scared. That's emotionally insecure. So, when the explorer comes and says, there is that kind of an animal, you just learned about a new animal. You now know that Australia is weird. It's not that you don't know anything. You've learned something. Now, what should happen if later you find out that the man was hallucinating, it's not exactly in the pocket? Okay, too bad, so it's not true.
Got a new idea for a book.
So what should an intelligent person say to the explorer who says there is that kind of animal? What should an intelligent person say?
Cool story, but
Evidence?
How do they reproduce? They lay eggs? They don't lay eggs? What do they eat? Where do they live? Tell me more.
Well, then.
That's intelligent. Now, somebody comes along and says, God created the world in 6 days. And you say, oh, no. Don't be ridiculous. It takes at least 8 days. What is your intelligent objection to God creating the world in 6 days?
well,
It's beyond.
there's science and there's Torah. I mean, they should be the same, but
It's beyond human understanding. So how can you be like?
What's beyond?
well, science says billions of years. Torah says
I'm not talking about the age of the universe. God created the world in 6 days. What's wrong with that?
Big Bang didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
Sounds great.
It's just
Sounds great. Good for him.
God is unfathomable. You can't limit him to something. If he knew anything and everything.
Okay, so what you're saying is that when a person says God created the world in 6 days, you should ask him, what is God? If he can't explain it, then he's babbling.
Because no one can explain God, so.
Totally.
God means something else to everyone.
So, fine. Tell me what you mean by God. Probably is.
Protector? I don't know. Creator? Just
So, again, let's one thing at a time. When you hear something you've never heard before, it's outside your realm of experience, you've learned something new, and you should be excited about it. and want to know more. To say I don't believe it? What do you mean? You weren't there? Yeah, I know. It was a long time ago. I never heard that? Yeah, you just heard it. So what is your intelligent objection? There's none. So being skeptical is not intelligent. It's insecure. So the atheist, if you really press the atheist, he will admit, I don't know. I don't know that there's no God. I don't even know what God means. All I'm saying is, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket and then find out that it wasn't true, because then there'll be egg on my face. It's not an intelligent opinion. It's a self-defense mechanism.
But the same could be said for religious people, can't it?
What?
I mean, I don't know that God doesn't exist, but just in case he does.
That's not a religious person. That's a superstitious person. Just in case is a superstition.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's out of fear. That's not a religious person. Or maybe it is a religious person, but it's not a healthy person.
Well, wait.
So listen to this.
Aren't you supposed to fear God?
Let's first find
In a
out,
different way.
what do we mean by God? Isn't it time we figure that out? We talk about him all the time. We argue about him even. He said this. No, he said that. Oh, by the way, I don't know what that is. Like this guy said to me, I don't believe in God. I said, what? He said, I don't believe in God. I said, what are you talking about? He says, what, you think everybody believes in God? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. What's God? He says, I don't know. So what don't you believe in? In other words, to be an atheist, you have to define God. If you can't define him, you're not an atheist. You just don't know.
But the whole point of atheism is God doesn't exist.
What doesn't exist?
Exactly. If it doesn't exist, then we have no need to define it.
No, you do need to define it. You cannot.
How do you know he doesn't exist if you don't know what it is?
You cannot
That's what
base.
atheism is.
Even if you are. Wait, may I? Even if you're basing yourself on what you claim to be is a lie, you still have to state what that lie is in order to base yourself on anything.
Do anti-vaxxers do that?
Yes, they do. They know exactly what a vaccination is. Well, no, they don't know what a vaccination is, but they still have a general idea of what a
I
vaccination
put you on a
is.
tangent.
Well, no, I'm still on the point.
Listen. To say that something is or something is not, either way, be intelligent about it. What are you talking about? What is God?
The being that brought 10 plagues and took us out of Egypt.
Was.
That's what he
is,
did.
Will be.
But what is he?
Oh,
He is what he was,
he-
is, and will be.
Yeah, that's a bit overgeneralized. He is the one that was responsible for the exodus of Egypt.
He was also responsible for putting us into Egypt.
Yeah, but that's not the thing we remember him.
Right. You have selective memory.
It's useful in some cases. Give me a break.
No, but it's still not telling me what he is.
He is everything.
He is.
What does that mean?
He creates everything, and he is everything. He sustains everything.
That's what he does.
He's what he.
No, it's what he is.
He's
We
what-
are a part of God.
He's a sustainer.
He's a creator, sustainer,
He's a spectator.
This creator is what?
everything.
He's our source for life. He's
No,
the source of the universe. Made the universe.
He's constantly making it. It's not made, it's
Well,
making.
That would
And
be
he will make.
playing with toys isn't right.
Well, what?
Okay, do you know the theory of evolution?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. The theory of evolution says, how did everything begin?
With
Bacteria.
bacteria. Then the bacteria became fish, and then some fish decided to go out and land.
Nope. stuff started to make oxygen, and then the oxygen
Stuff.
bacteria.
that's
Okay.
not
I'm
carbon.
talking from the very
It's the same general idea.
Yeah.
There was a big bang.
Start from
There
the.
was a big bang. What banged?
There wasn't an explosion.
everything.
Nope, no stars, nothing. There's
We don't know.
I don't think so.
That's not how it works.
But I'm just
We
going to say
don't know
nothing
what
and
happened.
everything.
The bang is a mystery, as they would put
Nothing
it.
existed.
No, it wasn't even an actual explosion. It was an expansion. But the universe,
This is based
it
on.
was an expansion of
It's close to
Nothing
virtual
existed.
matter.
Nothing existed before that.
Not exactly. That's not exactly what the theory states.
No.
Nothing and everything exploded.
No, there was no explosion.
There was nothing,
Nothing
to cause
and
it.
everything exploded.
It wasn't.
That sounds like religion to me.
No, it wasn't an explosion. It was an expansion.
But there wasn't anything to expand.
No, it was an
There was
expansion
nothing to
from.
expand.
No.
Yeah, there was.
No,
Sure, there was.
there's a point of stuff and a point of no stuff. We don't know what connects it to, but at the point of stuff, you go from one point and the universe expands at the speed of light, I think, from
In
there.
other words, it all began with stuff. Yes?
They're all.
Good
my
Where did this stuff come
How
from?
That's good enough for me.
I said, where did this stuff come from?
It's irrelevant.
Nice.
That's not science.
Nice.
We're talking about growth, and where did the stuff come
So hang on a
from
second.
is relevant.
Listen to this. Part of the theory of evolution, at least in the past, was that there were two substances and they collided and there was a big bang.
That's the theory of that.
So there was subatomic particles and some gases, and when they collided, there was that's how it began.
Where did that stuff come from?
Not only that. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. The problem is not where did they come from. The problem is how did you get two? You don't start with two. So if you think there was subatomic particles and gases, which one came first?
Yes.
Some atomic particles.
Subatomic particles came first.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, there was nothing but subatomic particles.
Where did those come from?
There was a step before that.
Hang on.
Give it time.
If in the beginning there was just subatomic particles, what happened?
They coalesced.
When you have only one thing, nothing happens. That's why they needed two things, because you need a catalyst. You need something to explode. But if there's one thing in the beginning, then that's all there is ever going to be. There's one original being, end of story.
Well, the particles
How does anything change if there's only one thing?
If I may,
coalescing into something else.
There is nothing else.
Yeah, the particles could have, like, come together and, done
what about the particles and the order of particles?
The particles existed forever. Then all of a sudden exploded. Come on.
Hey,
Those particles.
I guess I'm just trying to see where this is going.
Where this is going is that if you start with one being, it's the end of the story.
Why is God
Is that why we
simplified to a being?
Hang on. First get the theory, then tell me what you think of it. The idea is, if there is one existing being, nothing will ever change. What creates change? So there was a subatomic particle that just always was there. And then what?
It decided to boom.
It decided. That's the only decent explanation. If it decided, then that's God. Why are you calling him a particle? If there was a substance that was original and it decided, that's what God is. God means the original substance that decided. The difference between God and evolution is that the subatomic particle did not decide. It just blew up. But that doesn't make any sense.
You see things randomly explode.
That's just the sound.
The only thing that makes sense, not belief, not faith, not religion, nothing. The only thing that makes sense is the original substance, and there had to be an original substance. Unless you believe that 0 plus 0 equals a universe.
0 equals 1.
So if there was an original substance, the only way that that would turn into a universe is if that substance wanted something. There's this guy over here.
No.
Schrodinger's cat.
He's a physicist, and he campaigns to have creation taught in school alongside evolution. Because creation explains things that evolution can't explain. For example, he says, this was on the radio, he was being interviewed. Human blood, I don't know the science behind it, but this is what he said. Human blood has 13 ingredients. But in order for the blood to be blood, all 13 ingredients have to happen at the same time. You can't have one and then add the other and the other. It'll never become blood. So evolution will not explain the existence of human blood. Because all 13 ingredients have to happen at the same time. So he was talking about this, and people were calling in, asking very intelligent questions and so on. So he is saying that proves that there's a creator, there's a God. One guy called in who didn't sound like a scientist at all, sounded like a street kid. And he said, you know, people used to believe in God because of thunder. Who else could make a noise like that? So they believe, oh, that must be God. Until they found out what thunder was. And now, it's not proof that there's a God. So this kid said to the professor, aren't you doing the same thing? How could blood with 13 ingredients come into existence? So there must be a God. Next week we'll figure out how it happened. Why are you jumping to conclusions like there's a God because of thunder? In other words, if you find something you can't explain, does that prove there's a God?
No.
No, it just proves that you don't know how to explain it. So what is this argument? How else could this world come into existence? What does that prove?
You don't know.
It proves that you don't yet know how it happened, that's all. Right? So in the olden days, they used an argument. I'll prove to you that there's a God and a creator, because if I told you that that book on the shelf was not written by a human being, there was a bottle of ink, it spilled, and it dried with those words and sentences and so on.
I'll call you crazy.
You would call me crazy.
Yeah. I'll ask if you need to go to the men's hospital.
Yes. So, the argument is, the world is very complex. You believe that this happened by accident? See? Proof that there's a God. Well, first of all, is it impossible for a bottle of ink to spill and write a book?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Impossible?
It's not impossible.
Odds are very, very low.
The odds are extremely low. But you can't say impossible.
Let's see if you put something that will have the ink form into those words.
No, just by itself.
Oh,
So,
Really low check.
listen to the end of the argument is not that a bottle of ink can't write intelligent sentences. The argument is this. In the beginning, there was just a bottle of ink. When it spilled, it created a universe. What's wrong with that argument?
Why did it spill?
Why did it spill?
Oh.
There was just a bottle of ink. The wind blew it over. There was no wind.
It also didn't have consciousness.
Why was it open?
In other words, no matter what you believe was there at the beginning, what happened? If it was just a bottle of ink, okay, so you got a bottle of ink. Well, when it spilled, it doesn't spill. Unless the bottle of ink wanted to write a book. If the original substance wanted, now you're talking God. Why are you calling it a bottle of ink? So, what is the definition of God? What do we mean when we say God? The original substance that had a desire, that has a desire. You can argue, no, the original substance doesn't have a desire. Okay, that's your God. So God means the original substance from which everything else came. The debate is, what is the nature of that substance? So the question is really, what is God, not is there a God? But when you just use the word, it becomes a ridiculous conversation. This guy is having a debate with Dennis Prager. He's an atheist. He doesn't believe in God.
Schroeder?
No, different guy. Did it recently. He said, I don't believe in God. Why? Because no one can explain what God is. I said, well, then you should go home. You shouldn't be part of this discussion. If you have no idea what God is, why are you debating him? How can you be part of a debate about God when you just said yourself you don't know what God is?
People make things up all the time and use it in debate. That's what politics is.
Right. Let's debate this thing that I don't think exists. It's so embarrassing. And these are called intellectuals. So, if I tell you God came down to Mount Sinai on the day of Shavuos, which was the 6th or 7th day of Sivan, 3,330 years ago. And you say, oh, give me a break, I don't believe that.
Okay.
You don't believe that? Because you weren't there? Because you never heard of such a thing?
There's a difference between not being there and there being records.
What do you need records for? I'm telling you.
It's just backup.
Right, insecurity, that's what it is. What intelligent reason do you have for saying no? None. None. Unless you happen to know for a fact that afternoon God was in Cleveland. Now you got a problem. Right? So unless you have a conflicting fact, what is your problem? Do you know where God was 3,000 years ago?
No.
No. So I'm telling you, he was at Mount Sinai. Okay, thanks. What's your problem with that?
People naturally.
So here's the thing. Why is it that when a person who believes and a person who doesn't believe come into a conversation, the person who believes is on the defensive?
Because they don't know either.
You believe in God? Prove it. What is your... I don't have to prove anything. You don't want to listen to me? That's fine. You'll never know where the Ten Commandments came from.
Your belief is your belief.
Huh?
Your belief is your belief.
No, that's not the conversation.
Every rabbi, this is really my main complaint, every rabbi is apologetic.
Is what? Is what?
Apologetic. Every rabbi talking to a non-believer feels on the defensive. I hate it. That's so embarrassing.
There's got to be a defensive.
God,
attackers. Or else everything's
Yeah, but
chaos.
why is it always one side that's on the defensive?
Because
The non-believer simply says, yeah, prove it. That's it? That's your argument? And you feel superior?
Well,
It's really bad. So when you hear a rabbi speak, and the rabbi says, and most even Orthodox rabbis do this, according to our belief, according to the sages, God came down to Mount Sinai. According to the Hebrew Bible, why do you keep saying that?
Because not everyone believes in it.
But you do.
No, because if you were to say otherwise, then it would be
Huh?
How does it
plagiarizing.
work to be like, okay, I believe in it, because you're trying to convince them something to believe in something.
Are you sure in what you believe or not?
Yeah.
So why do you keep apologizing?
No one
It sounds-
apologized.
No,
Yes, it sounds like-
apologizing isn't.
According to, in other words, I can't say for sure, but according to the sages, why can't you simply say, God came down to Mount Sinai on Shavuot?
Because that would
If
be.
everything has to be fact,
Yeah.
then why are we encouraged to ask questions?
Let him ask
Right.
questions, but state the facts.
Ask questions for
Because
facts.
it's, why would you say something and not say the source? Everyone does that.
Yeah, but you can't.
You're not giving a source, you're giving like a cop-out. Don't blame me. That's what the sages said, you know.
Yeah, don't blame you.
It sounds like you're not sure.
Or it could just be giving a source that they could look it up themselves.
Why do you have to look it up? It's a fact.
Are you
I could say,
100%
you
sure
could say
what God
anything.
is?
Yes,
Faith doesn't.
Then what is he?
he is the original substance from which all other substances come.
No, that's what was he. What is he?
He still is.
Okay, what will he be?
Direct.
Older. What do you believe?
Okay, you win.
But he can't be older.
All
No,
right,
no,
so
it's a joke.
But
rabbis who what is the word? Equivocate. According to the sages, it's our belief. We believe. Like, what are you doing? Is it true or isn't it true? And if it's true, just say it. God created the world in 6 days. Well, according to no. He really did. He created the world in 6 days.
There's also the problem of offending people. Because people tend to get really offended over small things nowadays.
I think it's more offensive.
Let him suck it.
Yeah, I think it's more offensive when you don't make a declarative statement. You represent something, say so.
But once you say that, people are going to be like, okay, that's what you believe?
No, that's not what I believe. That's what happened.
Okay, then
Where's the proof behind it?
Huh?
Where's the
there,
proof
but I
behind
just
it?
realized
Who needs
that brings
proof?
us back.
Anybody that wants to have a faith-based religion, it's faith, not fact. That's how it is.
But there's also...
An event in history is faith or fact?
An event in history is fact, but there's no proof that it's because of an Almighty.
There's no proof to any event in history other than its history.
Sure there is.
History is
Records.
written by the victors. You don't know for
there's
sure what
that,
anything
but
happened.
Records.
So there's no such thing as history?
Sure there is.
History is, but people should realize that not all history is fact. It's written by the victors.
What about pictures?
Pictures?
Yeah, like photographs.
Those are records.
Wait, no.
Okay, but they can be,
Photographs haven't been around for as long as...
and they also can be
Still,
manipulated.
even propaganda have a bit of truth in it. Fact.
But
Okay,
Yeah.
go into communist
So,
propaganda and pull it.
if you have a historical record that nobody disagrees with, is that a fact?
can you find anything that no one disagrees with?
Yes. The event at Sinai.
Right, it says
Yeah,
gives
but
people.
we have records.
Nobody disagrees with it. The Christians
people-
believe it, the Muslims believe in it.
Not everyone believes in it.
No.
There's no
believe
contradiction
that it
to it.
exists.
You know what I'm saying? So the same thing with, do you believe in ghosts? I don't daven to ghosts. I don't worship ghosts, if that's what you mean by belief. But that there is a ghost? Yeah, there's probably a ghost.
Yeah, like that.
How can I say there's not? But make a religion out of it? No thanks.
Make Scientology the thing.
So, here's my point. When you talk about God, you're talking about the most real, the most factual, the most reliable reality in the world. We came from something. Why are you apologetic about that? Why are you defensive about that? And somebody says, oh, I don't believe that. Well, you're an idiot. What do you mean you don't believe that something started at the beginning? Because you don't know what God means. So don't say you don't believe in it. Ask me what God is, and I'll tell you.
Okay.
So, what I'm basically saying is, we do not believe that God exists. We know He exists. Then what do we believe? What is emunah? Belief that there's a God?
But how do we know?
Believing in God.
It's just a
How do we
Right.
know?
Yeah, how do we know?
How do we know? Because of our Sinai, or because of just logic makes sense there has to be a first being source?
thunder, blood.
You don't have to know.
There has to be a beginning. He is the beginning.
Okay.
But now where did he come from? Where did he come from? Where did he come from, actually?
Very good. There is absolutely no need for faith or belief or religion. If God is the original substance, what is an original substance like? Infinite?
Yeah.
Why?
Because who's there to limit him?
No.
Because who is there to limit him?
No, there's a part.
All limit comes from a stronger power. Why am I limited?
Because God made you limited.
Because He only gave me a little bit of talent. That's it. So the fact that I'm limited proves that I'm created.
Yeah.
But if He was the original substance, why would He have a limit?
But original substance can have limits. Like, say, oh wait, never mind.
Right? So by definition, an original being has no limits, and therefore nobody created him. Number two, is there only one God, or maybe there's more?
There's
Why one?
many.
Because if there's
Why there's one for each, like,
There's really
one for the Milky Way, one
I'm
for.
pretty sure the Torah is actually
I don't, but there could be a bunch of like
But then
subordinates.
who created
Not
it?
really.
So that's
And who and what's in between those two gods? Like who's higher than those gods?
Or, if there are two gods, one has to end and the other one to begin.
no.
So if
They
you...
could both begin at the same time.
No.
Not in time. By definition, if there are two,
They cannot coexist as first.
Yeah, they can have subordinates. We can't have two like big gods that like fight it out.
you have two infinities.
Yeah, that would suck.
In the
That-
beginning,
that would
everything
work.
So
has to be
if,
similar.
if God
Yeah,
is
that's
infinite, He doesn't end. So how can there be another one? Another one can only exist if He ends.
It's like,
There can be a bunch of mini gods.
yeah,
There are
Then
there are many gods.
yeah.
There are angels. There are constellations. But those are not the
Constellations
creator.
aren't being.
Those
Are
are not.
angels just a bunch of like, you know,
Angels aren't
like
gods either.
they don't really have
We're
their
talking about
own
like deities that people
Like-
worship, I guess.
Zeus.
Yeah, but those deities.
Things like that, yeah.
Yeah. But people did not believe that that was God. It was the God of
Yeah, as in like
the God of fertility, the
They
God
didn't know
of.
how to explain these things. People, they're just like, oh, it's supernatural.
God.
I think they were very smart. They did understand the forces of nature, and they worshipped each force in nature.
As
Whatever controlled the seasons is a god. Whatever controls fertility is a god. Whatever controls lightning is a god. But they didn't mean the creator of the world. They
They
weren't
would
stupid.
sometimes refer
they,
to
they
Jupiter
wouldn't
as
have a
God.
creator.
They could sometimes refer to Jupiter as God.
A god.
No, God.
No.
Oh my
using the
God.
Roman.
Oh my God.
A God.
Because.
You see,
because
the proof that God exists.
Is that we say, oh my God?
Yes.
play
Everyone's always talking about it. Oh my God.
Everyone's always talking about dragons, but do they exist?
Yes.
I will not, in my life, ever Unless if God decides to be nice to us all.
Dragons are real in a symbolic
Nice.
I mean, physical.
Okay, so
Fire
now,
breathing dragon
hang
is
on.
nice.
Let me get to the.
Actually, according to Greek mythology, there is a one substance that created everything else.
Yes. And the early idolaters in the Torah, they also believed God created the world. But they called God the God of gods. But then there are the little gods you can talk to.
Like Ra.